So here's another interesting one. It's a Nissan NV400 or a Renault Master. It's got the 2.3 TCI engine in it. So I'm getting the P0106 atmospheric pressure and manifold air pressure sensor correlation, or depending on what tool you use, it's the manifold air pressure sensor performance. So checked initially, the manifold air pressure sensor wasn't getting any response at all from it if you're changing pressure. Removed it, manually put a Mitivac onto it, checked again on a diagnostic tool, and I wasn't getting any change whatsoever. So replaced the sensor, expected that to be the issue solved. Still get the same problem. So removed this new sensor and just repeating the same test as I had with the old one. Press on it here, and if I apply some pressure to it, you can see the response there on the sensor. So the old sensor was definitely dead. This new one, however, if I put that back in manifold, I don't have any change at all when I rev the engine and the readings. So I have managed to narrow it down. So I've got smoke generator, auto machine, absolutely brilliant machine. Got that hooked up. That's pressurising air intake, which I don't know if you can see here, just on one of the Jubilee clips, it's slightly loose. Camera's not picking up very well, but there is plenty of pressure in here. As you can see, plenty of smoke. So if we just seal up this intake system again, the full intake system should be pressurised, and this hole where the manifold air pressure sensor goes in, there is absolutely nothing coming out of that whatsoever. So I don't know if you can see on the camera or how well this is going to pick this up in the camera, but I think this little hole in here for the manifold air pressure sensor has to be blocked. Just up the top of the screen on the left hand side. This has got to be blocked, because I would be expecting smoke out of there just now, but I'm getting absolutely nothing. So I have tried all the usual, digging it with a pick, putting chemical cleaner through it. I think I'm going to have to try the guitar string method and see if that gets us anywhere, but I will report back, hopefully with good news. Absolutely everything to get this to unblock that hole. I tried the DPF cleaners, I tried various different solvent cleaners, I tried the guitar string method, I tried pressurised air, 128 psi. Yeah, everything. I could not get this hole to unblock. So what I've actually done is just run the line from the vacuum cleaner down there, and I've just drilled a hole through that. So as you can see, maybe not so well on the camera there, but there is smoke flying out of there now, which tells me that my passage from the mass airflow sensor to here should be clear, and that should give me my full pressure reading again once I get everything built back up. So I think that's obviously been restricting the airflow through to the sensor itself, and that's why when I've been driving it, the manifold pressure does creep up very slightly. It does move slightly, but not in line with what's happening with the engine revs. So it looks as if that's been the root cause of the problem anyway the whole time. That's what's blocked the DPF and caused all the running issues. So I'm just going to get it built back up and I'll test it, and hopefully that should be it. So you can see now that the manifold pressure is responding with the engine revs. So before, that value was just staying stationary
and over a period of say 30 minutes of driving it, the pressure would creep up like 1 millibar at a time, until it was like at maybe about 1020. It must just be a tiny bit of pressure leaking past the blockage in the manifold into the gap between there and the sensor, and it's just holding the pressure. So the correlation fault code was actually only coming up once the engine had been run and then switched off again with the ignition on, and it must be doing a comparison between the atmospheric pressure sensor and the manifold pressure sensor. And obviously if that manifold's got a blockage and it's bypassing a tiny amount of pressure there, it's going to hold that pressure, and then it's making that comparison of like the 1020 versus the 970 or whatever the atmospheric pressure was reading with the engine off. And I think that's the conditions which are actually setting the fault there. So I'm just going to give this a road test, but I'm fairly certain now that I've got this response that my issue is solved. So the last thing I want to do to confirm this is check out the pressures, or the atmospheric pressures, all marry up, because these are all just pressure sensors. With the engine switched off, they all should read at least roughly atmospheric pressure. There will be some difference between them. There will be a tolerance there, but want to make sure that they're roughly within spec. So if we switch everything off, switch ignition off, so I switch the engine off, leave the ignition on, you can see the manifold pressure there, like 988, atmospheric pressure 988, so that's absolutely perfect. And this value for the upstream pressure sensor for the turbine is dropping slightly as well. And that's within like 20 millibar. So I wouldn't be too concerned about that. So to me, that looks as if all the pressure sensors were reading okay. That would be the correlation fault that it was setting, is when this manifold pressure was staying up at past 1100 anyway. So just double check. Codes. No fault codes. Engine running. Just double check again. No codes. And the very last thing I want to check is that the DPF soot content has dropped as well. I've been driving this for about 30 minutes now. So going to custom list. This is where the launch tool is far better to use. It's actually got a search function on it, instead of having to manually go through this list. So I need to try and find the soot content. So either be under DPF. You can't see anything under DPF there, so probably soot content. Soot content of the particle filter. .1 grams, that's perfect. I think from memory there's about between like 14 and 20 grams is normally when these will flag a fault. So absolutely within spec. That was the initial symptom. The exhaust on this fan was blocked completely solid. Had to actually remove it and clean it off the vehicle before I could get the engine to run. And that fault code with the P0106-29 has been the root cause of everything. So, another one done.